had a session, oh my goodness, Thursday night, where the gentleman was over a half an hour late for our session. And I really, and his wife sat here before for the half hour looking at me saying, this is exactly the stuff where he tells me how deeply he loves me, but this is what he does all the time. So how am I supposed to believe that there is actual desire to be connected to me or to be interested in what I'm saying?
And he probably doesn't have the insight into understanding that, the implicit message he's sending by being late.
Correct.
That this is not as important. Other things are.
Correct.
There's a saying that I often use and I counsel with people too is, if you're interested, you'll do what's convenient. But if you're dedicated, you'll do what it takes.
Yeah.
Oftentimes in our society today, the concept of, hey, when you ask somebody how they are, which has become like part of our greeting in American society in my lifetime, they'll say, oh, busy, but good. Well, it's almost as if exhaustion is a badge of honor in American society today. And they're spending way too much time working, doing other things, and wondering what's on their phones, and not enough time connecting.
Big issue.
And that has changed drastically in our lifetime.
Well, it has, and it makes me sad because I know that before COVID, it just feels like it's crescendoing in such a way that is not a positive. And I always say to people, stop being a human doing and be a human being.
Right.
Because human being, be human. It's like kind of like, and I'm not the one that coined that, somebody else did.
Yeah, that was from the 60s, wasn't it? The human being, I think that was
at
some point, right?
Yeah.
I want to say like Berkeley or something.
Something. But it's true though.
Right.
But it's so true because I think that is such a big, big issue with so many people that come in.
Sure.
It's just, it's too much.
And oftentimes they downplay, so they may have insight. They may do the first two parts of validating and empathizing with a partner as they grow and learn to do this.
Yeah.
But it's that last final step that they have the biggest trouble with, and that's connecting with the other person's emotions.
Yes.
So they may say something like, you make sense to me because I imagine you're feeling X.
Yes.
But then instead of actually coming from that place, they will say, however, you're wrong because this is what I really mean.
Yes.
And that solves nothing.
Well, that also undoes the validation.
Correct.
It's
immediately.
Like, it's the same thing as saying, I'm so sorry you feel that way.
Right.
Drop the mic. It's like, drop the mic.
Right.
But it's a similar thing. And I think that for me, and I don't know how you feel about this, but the most difficult part of keeping people connected in the intentional dialogue is explaining, first of all, what intentionality really is.
Right.
And I always say to them, I'm very much like, state highway patrolman standing over you. You have to do the speed limit in the beginning. There's freedom in form over time, but you have to learn how to be intentionally connected and listening. It's active listening. There's a difference between hearing and listening.
Right.
But once people master that, I see a lot of struggling with the validation piece because they'll do great, and then all of a sudden they'll come in with that point, but and it's that defensive posture.
But what about what you're doing to me?
Right. It's always like reverse.
Right.
And I just look at them and I'll just go, guys, you just undid the whole validation.
Right.
But I don't understand how I did that.
Right.
And then you have to explain to them. But I also think, and I don't know, I was just saying this to someone today. I have noticed that my practice is ratcheted up to such a high frequency. The cases that are coming in, first of all, I believe environment affects
Absolutely.
everybody. So all of the crazy that's going on in this world right now, and it is crazy, is affecting people in their relationships.
Sure.
So that's coming in on top of the stuff that they already have.
Right.
And ever since everybody went remote with their jobs, the demand is insane.
Sure.
You can't work 80 hours a week and think you're going to have a relationship with someone.
And that's the big thing too, is because, since second wave feminism, You know, and yes, women should have had the option to be able to work and earn a living if they chose to.
Right.
But nobody really thought about what it would look like to the nuclear family.
Mm-mm.
What were the duties and responsibilities going to be? So there were assumptions made that they would do both, work and maintain their house and raise the children.
Which is really blowing up.
It's not working anymore.
No, it really isn't.
And
I see that as well.
especially in the Northeast, these higher, the higher earnings areas like New York, California, we're seeing on the West Coast as well, where people are burning out. And they're wondering why they're unable to connect with their spouse and why there's this almost a formation of boredom in the relationship. Well, if you don't spend time,
it's going to be boring.
Of course. And all you're doing is working and the only conversations you have so here's operant conditioning playing out too. The only phone conversations they're having are discussing what problems exist in the family.
Right, exactly.
And they're not having conversations like they used to when they first met, whether it be flirtatious in some way or, hey, let's make a plan or, what was the good part of your day?
Or even sexy texting with your partner.
Absolutely.
I mean, I tell people all the time, send a sexy text.
Yes.
It's just something that will...
You did it in the beginning.
Right, but that also comes down to, think about it, appreciations.
Sure.
Because that is a way of appreciating your partner for who they are. Also, just people need to feel like they matter.
Right.
Like we do Don does a whole segment. He's, he's a facilitator, but I'm telling these folks out here that he is an Imago facilitator, so he helps me with the workshops. And we're very excited that you're going to be doing the workshops with us.
Sure.
But it boggles the mind that people are not, they don't even consciously thank their partner for doing something because everybody's so rushed in their life and there's just assumptions and there's a little bit of a loss of gratitude. Assumptions, yes. I
that someone should do something because of perhaps a gender role or traditional or otherwise.
I agree.
And there's no appreciation for these things. And it's all about now, especially younger generations. Yeah. An expectation that something should be fixed in the house immediately. Meanwhile, that person is working long hours. Whether it be male or female, it doesn't matter. Yeah. Where this problem should be taken care of, where that financial need needs to be resolved immediately. Yeah. Well, we didn't get here overnight. We're not going to get out of it overnight. And there's no clasping of hands and saying, let's do this together. And there's a forgetting of power in numbers.